I'm an all-day coffee drinker. I think I got it from my mom. She's that way too. I can start my day with coffee. I can drink coffee all day long. I can have a cup of coffee after dinner, and it really doesn't affect my sleep. I really do enjoy it. Up until recently, I had been very non-picky about where my coffee comes from. And then I met a friend at Texas Coffee Works, and my taste changed. The man in today's visit is Jess Haynie. Jess is the CEO of Texas Coffee Works and Austin Roasting Company, based here in Bastrop, Texas. Jess was tough to convince to come into the studio, not because he's not friendly, but because he stays busy and he's very careful with where he applies his time. He's a stickler for details, and when you visit Texas Coffee Works, you'll immediately get a sense of what I mean. Everything I've had from the shop, everything from coffee to sandwiches to breakfast pastries and more, has a level of care built into it that's immediately obvious. And getting to know Jess has helped me understand why this business is so successful. If you ever find yourself between Austin and Houston, be sure to stop by Texas Coffee Works and check out what Jess and his team are building. It's pretty special. Until then, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with my friend, Jess Haynie.
In the elder group of millennial. I'm 85.
Okay.
So 40 this year.
Okay.
Yeah. My sampling is small and certainly skewed, but I have seen in my kind of ecosystem of people, most of my friends are either elder millennial generation or like you, they're younger Gen X generation. And again, bad sampling, but the people that I have seen go on tilt as a result of the craziness of COVID and the era since have all been Gen Xers.
Yeah.
All of them. Like I've lost friendships with people in that generation that inexplicably, like,
yeah,
I didn't vote for the same guy you did, or I didn't take masks as seriously as you did. And it just totally terminated a friendship. Those have all been Gen Xers.
Well, one thing, I will say I've changed a lot in the last few years in that there might be an age group in there is that we need each other less in that age group than we did before.
Huh. Interesting.
Meaning I'm kind of letting people go more than I would have in the past. And I've let a lot of people go through COVID, and it was only, I don't know, it was like Chef's Table or one of these. And, I very much have a chef's mindset on a lot of things. And so I watched a lot of these chef shows, and one of the chefs on there was Francis Mallman was talking about, seeing old friends from the past and realize like, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm a different guy now. And whatever relationship we had, it just didn't maintain itself. And that's why I moved on. Right. Yeah. And after I kind of heard that, I was kind of like, oh, that's okay. Like, it's okay to go like, we just kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Right. And the relationship didn't continue. And I think as as I crossed 50, I probably started getting like, it's okay if this relationship doesn't go on anymore. And this includes family too. I just kind of went like, hey, we gave it a good run, for 25 years or whatever. We tried to work, but our lives just kind of separated and stuff. And so I'll defend them, maybe I can defend them a little bit on that, in that it's okay. They're moving into a place where they're like, it's okay to let some relationships go.
Yeah.
So
it's when you're younger, that's more disruptive to you because you only have so many relationships you developed. So losing one, especially one that's important to you, like a casual relationship, go have lunch with a friend every quarter or so, and those come and go. The ones where if I see you, I'm giving you a hug and I'm telling you I love you, those are harder for me to lose.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you get older, you realize that you have seasons of life where you yourself change. So the relationships and the people you're surrounding yourself with are going to change as well. So probably a little less impactful, but it's still, I don't know, man, it's noteworthy to me when you have somebody that just won't even return a phone call or return a text message that 5 years ago, I would have called for anything that I really needed. And I trusted this person or these people pretty dearly.
Yeah. And
then to have them go away for something that like, I don't think speaks to my character. Maybe it does to them.
Well, I'm feeling that a lot. I mean, especially on the political side, even on family. I mean, all the guys that I grew up with ridiculing and arguing over, I remember arguing over the Bush War or whatever, during that period or after 9/11, we of course had all differing opinions. And we'd tell each other, fuck off, and you're
Mhm.
ridicule for whatever our positions were. And then we went and had a beer.
Then you'd go, sit around a
That was
campfire
it.
with each other, and it's
Yeah,
no
that
big
was
deal.
it. I disagree with you. And, why are you always like this? Why are you always like
Right.
that?
Yeah.
But we were always sitting on the same side of the table, right? Now it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
What
do you attribute that to? Why has that changed? I have a theory, but I want to hear yours and all your elder wisdom.
I don't know. We're very demoralized, I think, at this point.
Mhm.
And so I think, picking teams, I think that's come into a lot. Being right. This whole thing about being right, and I forget who, somebody I was watching on a podcast was talking about, the intellectuals used to take it as a responsibility when someone didn't know something. Okay. Oh, you don't know about something that happened in the Middle East? Well, let me explain it to you. I was there and this is how it happened. And you would educate them
Mhm.
and you'd say, hey, here's why I think you should rethink your position, right? On whatever this thing that you were arguing about, right? Palestine, or whatever it was. You'd go, oh, I have some information you might want to know.
Mhm.
And you tried to coax them, into your position, hear your position, and think, I think you should rethink this. Now it's not like that.
Mm.
It's, they want to break a chair over your head and explain why their idea is so good and you're the worst person ever for thinking that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. I mean, we're proving that doesn't work.
Do you have any firmly held opinions that are like line in the sand things for you that would cost you friendships if somebody disagreed? Do you have any firmly held opinions like that are so deep seated and core to your humanity that you'd write somebody off?
I've gotten more rigid as time has gone on. I think I realized that I didn't have as good a moral center when I was younger. And so I spent a lot of time with people I probably shouldn't have. I don't know who that quote is. One of those, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had known that quote 30 years ago. So I probably let too many things go in my past where now, difference of opinion, not at all. I love, tell me all about socialism in Denmark. I want to hear how it's working, how it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
I can be, convinced if there's a better argument. I try to tell people these days is it's okay to argue. Like you're supposed to have a point and I'm supposed to have a point and we're supposed to learn from each other, and kind of gain some other perspective from the other side and then walk away, hopefully a better person for it. I'm trying to think about something right now.
Something you're convinced you're right about, where like you would have a tough time being told otherwise. It's okay to say no.
Well, I have some pretty, hard beliefs on a lot of things, but I've gotten where, maybe I'm just wiser after 50 now that I just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just let it go.
I think that the polarization created in the last 5 years, or what feels like it's been created, I'm sure it's always been there as like an undercurrent, but what feels like we're as polarized as we've ever been, I think you can attribute it. I mean, a lot of things, right? But one thing would be the lack of some sort of a spiritual framework that people have now, and that politics just sort of fills that void where it becomes a thing that's religion to you. And if somebody is outside of your religious framework, you see them as the other. It's very easy to other people when you're looking at your beliefs as doctrine, as gospel truth. I think that's a problem. I do think that, man, I don't know. Having firmly held opinions on anything, even something like religion, take a guy like Jefferson, right? Thomas Jefferson said that be there a God, he must surely prefer honest questioning to blindfolded fear or blindfolded adherence. So even something as deep and I would say foundational to your belief system as what you think about God, even somebody like Jefferson would say, question with boldness even the existence of a God. I don't think I have any opinions that I'm holding on so tightly to that if you shared a different opinion, that I'd write you off and delete you from my phone. That's an immaturity thing to me.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more passive these days where if, it's just, if I used this quote yesterday, I don't suffer fools anymore.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I
that's
just
good.
disagree with you, I'll just go, I'm not going to spend any more time with that
Yeah,
person.
just don't answer the phone. That's fine.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the obvious, it's just bad people. There's all kinds of bad people, whatever, dishonest or greedy or just hard to be around or not friendly or, I think, where I am, I spend a lot of time in my business caring for others, right? Trying to take care of people and trying to make them happy and stuff. And so one is I have to have employees that also have to share that mindset. And that's been very hard to do out here, is finding people that actually, the crew that I have right now, people tell me all the time, like, oh, that guy just, I pulled up and he just brought the coffee out to the car or something like that. And I was like, well, I'm lucky to have guys like that are honestly actually care about people. My manager, like really, Leia, right? She cares about people. So she, that's what's making that business successful, is actually just taking care of people. Right.
Yeah.
Which, especially these days, I think that's what people, when they go everywhere they're going right now, they don't really feel cared for anymore. I went through a culinary arts program years ago, and one of the classes was hospitality management, was about dining room and explaining how customers feel, why they go to places, what the outcome was, and like that wasn't lost on me. Like, we're still taking care of people over there, right? We're trying to make them happy. So my whole life, the last 30 years of my life, about trying to make people happy every single day. Like, that's my core. When I'm, coffee for all of, you don't need coffee. So all the people that buy my product, right, and who have been with me for all these years, like, it's because it's a part of every single one of their days, right? And so, like I set out, and maybe that was an excuse too, is that, as long as I was taking care of everybody and, providing a good service, then I didn't have to worry, that I was providing good service. So I didn't have to be particularly good myself. Right? I could be a bad boy, because look at all the good that I'm putting out into the world. Right. So, look at that guy enjoying my bagel or whatever. Like, I probably, yelled at my kid yesterday or something like that, but look at that guy. He's happy.
But at least that guy's good with his bagel.
Yeah.
No, I get it completely.
So,
well, let me tell you how I typically do things. I don't like to come in with a framework of like, here's the 10 questions I'm going to ask this person, because it just doesn't flow as well. I like to have conversations, and it's the same kind of conversation we'd have over coffee at the shop, without cameras and stuff in the room. So this is only different for that reason. But I do want to talk a little bit about your background, and you'll have to kind of refresh my memory on this, but you didn't start in hospitality. You started in something completely different, right?
I did, in that my parents owned a whitewater rafting company.
Okay.
When I was, my parents, I grew up in gold country of Northern California. So I grew up about a half a mile from where gold was discovered. So, it's a beautiful river, South Fork of the American River. And, I grew up in this wilderness setting, which looks a lot like where I live now. So some of my earliest memories was working in the camp, working around food, my mom, making all the meals for all the people that were coming on the trips. And she really cared about the food, right? And so some of my earliest memories were all around food. She was a really good cook, taking care of folks. By the time I was a teenager in high school, I was doing all the cooking for a different as the rafting business was sold, and I kind of went with it. So my dad was working there, so we worked together every summer. I was cooking for 150 people at a time. I had always had this, connection with food, and so I think even in high school, I thought that being a chef was going to be a cool job, right? As making food for people. It wasn't until I did fine dining for 10 years that I went, I don't want to do this. Yeah. I cannot live like this. Right. So, I've
it's
always
a hard way to live.
Yeah. My first was hospitality. Then I found that I had a head for computers. And so I kind of switched, and I had told myself, I want to work around the smartest guys I can. And then I realized there were a lot of the same guys. So, that I'd working around in the kitchen, but
that's what I remembered of your background was you were like a software developer, right?
yeah, I, for whatever reason, as soon as I got Windows or something and, Windows 98 or something like that, everything made sense to me. Computers made sense to me. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time. I took every single class at Santa Barbara City College. And then I started taking classes at UCSB. And then I finally got a job with a naval contractor. And then 9/11 happened. And so I had, I was going to, go work with all these geography guys out of UCSB and work on geography software. Then 9/11 happened and, contracts got pretty dicey after that. And then the company I was working for lasted about 4 or 5 years. And then I think that was in 2005. And that was the last time I had a job. So
then what? Explain the transition from software development.
Well, I had started a side business of doing web design.
Okay.
And I had taken one web design class at Santa Barbara City College. And the first day I was in there, and they explained, how the root works and how the files connect, and then HTML. And I was kind of looking at it, and it just made perfect sense to me. And everyone in the class was kind of like, "Well, how do I do this? And how do I do that?" And I was like, "I already got it figured out, right?" And I walked out of class, and I can make money doing this. And so I just started making websites for anybody I could. Antique shops, lawyers. I mean, so the dregs of like web design, but always trying to kind of move up. And then that got me a new account and another account.
When was this in the timeline? How old were you?
This is start of 2001, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Early,
so I'm doing this on the side.
Yeah.
While I'm going to school, and I'd learned something and then I could immediately deploy it and stuff. And then, but I've been watching all these small businesses, because they're kind of like I am now. They had 5 or 6 people, but they needed to add one person who could like solve a lot of problems. And so I was kind of a problem solver. So, but I also kind of would hear all of their woes. You could see how they were dealing with cash flow or how they wanted to, show whatever product they had and stuff like that. And so, doing the computer stuff all just made sense to me. I mean, I took every single class all the way to database development, film production at Santa Barbara City College. I was a certified cable guy. Like, there wasn't much I didn't know. Then we started building server systems for the Navy. Me and a couple other guys built a web-based scheduling system for ambulance companies. Which was kind of complicated, but it was like the worst, sounds like the worst job you'd want to have in the world, like having to do that. And so we built this thing. And of course, there's a long story that goes with that. But after that, I was done. I still did the web design. We ended up leaving Santa Barbara. We moved to Austin in 2006. So in 2006, I probably had, 50 small businesses that I was working with. So I was working in my pajamas and, drinking beer and floating around my pool thinking I was, it's the greatest thing
Living
ever.
the dream.
I really was. I was like, my friends were flying out and staying in Austin and stuff like that. We were getting into all kinds of trouble and stuff.
What was the impetus for the move to Austin?
Growing up, I knew I had to leave. Santa Barbara is extremely expensive. And I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to have a dog. I wanted to have a house. I wanted to do all those other things. Maybe we were going to have kids. I think when we got here, the house is bigger than what we needed, but we were like, this is just a starter home and we'll see, how our life goes. So I'm doing web designs and, working in my PJs every day. And then we get to the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. And all of a sudden, man, all invoices aren't being paid. I had already started the coffee business, right? So I just started roasting. I had started getting the coffee company going. I was trying to work and learn how to roast and sell coffee online and stuff. And right in the middle of that, and this was I started the business February 14th of 2008, right? Valentine's Day.
Oh, February of 2008.
Yeah. And then all my accounts, man, you could not get them on the phone. I mean, it was mayhem. People wouldn't pay the invoices. I mean, it was ugly. Well, meanwhile, I'm already halfway across the bridge, right, to starting the coffee company. So it was rough. From 2008 to 2015, I never made a penny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was 7 years of, we got money. It went right back. We bought more beans. But in that broke me on as far as ever doing anything. I was never going to work in a cubicle. I was never going to work on computers again. And I still haven't. I just don't. It would be very difficult to get me in front of a computer for more than about 2 hours.
Why? What changed there?
I don't know. I at the time, everything technical about it, I loved. I wanted to know how to do all of those things. I could sit in a chair. But as soon as I got into the roastery, like working all day, like, lifting heavy things and, listening to metal all day long, with my buddies, doing Boilermakers at 9 a.m. and stuff was way more fun. And so, we just didn't want to, it made sense not to do that anymore now. And slowly I kind of, got my way out of it.
You're doing something tangible when you're roasting coffee. Whereas when you're developing a piece of software, like for what I do for a living, if I work really hard at my job, I'm sitting at a computer screen for a week and I get up from that screen on a Friday evening and I don't feel like I've done anything. Yeah. Like it just doesn't equate to my brain that I've worked. I need to be doing stuff with my hands to feel that way.
I
Could
guess
it be some of that?
I can look back and go, I helped. And I think that was part of my beef too, is I had made some of these guys a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And for them to hang me out to dry after I had made them a bunch of money was sort of a bummer, and then, even the software company, they had a tough time, without going into all the gory details. They owed me a lot of money too. So, I was kind of hung out to dry, and now here I am with my own company. Mm. Somewhere in there, I think you tell yourself you'll just quit or I'll give up, right? I'll try this. And if it doesn't work, I'll just quit. I just quit. And so, somewhere in there, and I don't know, maybe it was like 2 years into it or something. I mean, in the old days, it was rough. We didn't have air conditioning. I mean, roasting in Texas, inside the building, it was brutal. Mm. I mean, if it was a job, I would have quit. But I was too committed at that point. Somewhere in there, I just went, I'm going to quit saying that. I'm just never going to quit. And as soon as I stopped saying it, every day got easier after that. As soon as I just said, don't give up. You'll put in the time and you'll be glad that you did. Right. Yeah. And of course, 100 times since then, I've looked at it and went, I'm glad that you gave up on giving up. Right. And you just said, I'll just never give up. And then it got easier. Yeah. And then, people helped me along the way. Of course, good hires kind of got us going along. And I guess we're going on almost 20 years now. So. Yeah, we talked about it earlier, but hubris plus pain tolerance is kind of what it takes to make a small business work. Yeah, I think there were some stories, you gaslight. There's a lot of gaslighting that goes on in there too. Of yourself or of other people? Of other people, right? I'd hear some story and I'd be like, Rick Bayless, he made it. And he said, I started this place with credit cards or something. And you go, okay, well, if Rick Bayless can do it, so can I. You don't know. You just make up these stories of how you're going to, solve these problems or whatever. But in that period though, I got to travel a lot. I got to go to these places and go to Costa Rica and Brazil. And, I basically just thought I would learn the craft. You and I have talked about imposters syndrome too, about, I was in a world, I'm still an imposter, even after 20 years, in that I'm an outsider. I just went to the coffee show in Houston and I still feel like an outsider compared to the rest of specialty coffee, because I don't think like them. I think like a chef. And so I don't fall into kind of the same cliches that they fall into. So, yeah. Tell me again the day you founded the business. You said it was 2006? Yeah, Valentine's Day, 2008. I moved to Austin and in October of 2006. And in April of 06, if you'd have told me I was going to be living in Texas, I'd have laughed in your face when I got married earlier that year. And so it was really funny to how this is all played out. I could not, we were tickled those years, and at least even in all the financial woes and of that period, you could leave my house and throw a rock from for sale sign to for sale sign of houses for sale back then. I mean, it was rough. I remember I put out an ad on Craigslist for a coffee packer, and I got 63 resumes, and it was $10 an hour. And I was getting engineers, vets, everybody was just being like, I don't care. I cannot stay at my house. I had one guy, he had like 6 kids, basically just like, I have to do something. And I was like, I can't, I'm not going to let you in here.
Yeah.
Something else will come for you. But if you come over here, right, that's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty rough back then, kind of surviving. But in that, you learn to sharpen the saw.
Yeah.
And so we sharpened the saw. By the time the business had kind of come up, we got good at sales. I got good at coffee. I tasted all these coffees. I traveled around. I started figuring out my blends, and I started figuring out. I got a lot of bad advice. There's some of my favorite. One was somebody telling me like, oh, you need like the Planters peanuts guy, and that's gonna be your. I was like, yeah, like Mr. Beanzo or something.
Yeah, right.
Like
your brand icon.
Yeah. So I mean, I could go on and on about you know what you need. You just need more sales. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks for the wisdom.
You need more marketing. Yeah. Oh, thanks. I'll work on that.
How did y'all pick Austin?
Did
you have family in Texas?
No. In fact, I had come down here on one of the contracts when we had developed that software. They had to come down, and I think it wasn't Waco, wherever Baylor and White is, up north, right? And
Baylor's in Waco.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. So I came down to Waco, and I think I got lost. Actually, I flew into ABIA, and then I got lost, and it put me out on the south side of Austin, right? So I came up with the 35, but through Austin. I remember and I still remember the day too. I kind of came through, and I was like, oh wow, this city, it's more of a city than I thought at the time, which compared to Santa Barbara it was, but it really wasn't then. But even one of the software guys I worked with at the time, always went to ACL. And then it kind of checked a lot of boxes. My buddy sent me, and he was like, hey, look at this house. And so even when I moved here in 06, and I wasn't part of the first wave, I was part of the second wave, because there was already expats leaving California. I think, and the guys that got in and, were still in the 90s and stuff. I was still late into that second wave, but I left California because there just wasn't anything there for me anymore. So when I came here and you told me, there was, I think even in those early years, I remember being like, I've seen 80 shows this year. I'd been to 80 bands, that we were just going out all the time. I love live music. I still love live music, which is why we have live music. We're going to have live music at our place. So, ironically enough, when I was in my culinary arts program, when I was 20, we had to do a project on, some restaurant that you were going to build. And I wish I still had those old notes, because I've literally building what I wrote on my project was when I was 21 years old.
That's awesome.
So 30 years later, I've actually built it. It's almost like I wish I had the drawings, because people go, oh my God, I actually did it. But at the time, Austin had everything we wanted, right? We could live, we could have a good time. I'm very much, guys from NorCal, it's not a big jump. From Southern California to Austin, it's a bigger jump, but I'm always going to be a NorCal guy. But when I came to Austin, it checked a lot of boxes for me. And Texas too, the freedom aspect of it and stuff, easy on businesses, and you could still afford to live here, and all these things really appealed to me. Of course, barbecue and all those things. So, we were absolutely head over heels when we moved. We couldn't do things fast enough. We couldn't go to a UT game get to, it was get to a game or get to some bar, or see some show. And we did every single thing you could do that we could afford, at that time, while still trying to start a business. But it was great.
Do you consider yourself a Texan now? Like when you go back to California, does it feel like home, or does Texas feel like home?
In California, I'm still very much a Californian. Yeah. I the way I look at things, the way my creative, a lot of those things all very much were kind of put into me early on. And so, no, I think I'll always kind of be a NorCal guy. And even when I meet people from there, they're kind of like me. And when I meet people here, they're not like me. So I'm not going to go and say I'm like them. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a man without a country, I think, at this point. So
you're a vagabond.
But I want to be a good Texan. That is, as I do, right? There's a lot of Texas traditions that I absolutely believe in, right? You invite somebody to lunch, you pay, right? Little things like this, little traditions here. The slower is faster, right? Take the slow approach, take the charitable approach. That's okay. It has slowed me down a lot, just being here. This Wednesday is not this Wednesday. It's actually a couple Wednesdays from now. So when I say this Wednesday, I mean a couple Wednesdays. So I think I've changed a lot over the time, but represent my California. They get everything they deserve. They are exactly what people say that they are. But I try to represent, if I'm going to be an expat here, I'm trying to contribute more than, maybe somebody who grew up here.
There's no law that says you can't be both too. You can be both.
Yeah, I'm both.
Yeah. You're a mutt.
Well, and I'm, I've told people I'm more Texan than a lot of Texans in a lot of ways, but if you want to dig into that or not,
well, I mean,
what that means to me. So,
what does it mean to you? You're more Texan than a lot of Texans.
Well, all the, if people are, hear about being a conservative or, guns and things like that. Yeah. I love the First Amendment. I love the Second Amendment. I was always that guy.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you don't want to be. Like, I don't care. The business climate here, of course, I mean, there's a lot more regulation here now than there was before, which is okay. But it's not like California either. Less government. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
So tell me about the transition from Austin to Bastrop. When did that happen? That was around COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
was it pre-COVID or because of COVID?
Pretty much because of COVID. Yeah. I felt like, right before COVID, the business was doing great. Just the wholesale business. We were building, a microbrewery next door, or nano brewery, whatever you call. So we were building this, we were brewing beer over there. I was kind of building it as a kind of a half-assed ghost kitchen. So if we had other food producers, that they could come in there and use our space to produce their foods. And, I made the joke about, incubating Austin Mustard Company or something, maybe we could do that, where we incubated other companies out of our facility. We wanted to do, 3 or 5 different beers. And because I'd had all these coffee accounts, I thought, I went to my accounts and I said, hey, if we can produce decent beer, can we have a tap? And they all said, yeah, you can do that. So, and then we rolled out the Giddy Up cold brew line. So we were kind of working all that. I was thinking about, 2018 was kind of peak. In my view, I think it was about 2018, 2019 was really peak specialty coffee. It was kind of ridiculous. I think we went to Seattle that year for the show, and they had DJs in the booths and, every kind of espresso machine, commercial machine. They'd added all these manufacturers. I mean, there was just every kind of product, and the place was packed. I mean, there was everybody in there. And it was kind of, after all these years of doing it, it was like, oh, okay, wow, there's a lot, maybe this is it. Well, since then, specialty coffee to me is consolidating now. Ever since then, they've had a massive pullback. in that what the specialty world can absorb. And so I was kind of feeling that. We were doing really great. Right before COVID, we got Circuit of Americas and we were rolling out a coffee trailer, and we were like, there's a picture of me and Jacob, we went fishing in Costa Rica. And, we were down there. I had just inked my first container, worth of coffee at Origin. And, these were like huge things for us at the time. We were like, this is going to be the best year ever, right? Going into 20. And we came back, it was like January 19th of 2020. And I think, I went back to my texts and I said, hey guys, like January 26th, I go, hey, do you guys see this thing? Like, something's going on here. Like, we need to look at this, right? This is about a week later. And that was it. 3 months from there, almost every single thing we did collapsed. So after working on it for all those years from 2008 all the way to 2020, I lost 50% of my business overnight, inside of 90 days. We got our food permit for the kitchen and the brewery and all that. I think it was like March 17th, right? Which if you compare it to the stock market is right when everything collapsed in there. So we'd spent all this effort for years, like building this place. And then of course, dealing with the landlords and everything, even after that, we were renting at the time. And I had seen even like my whole neighborhood, right? Where now my kid, and so my kid at the time at 20 is 5 years old. So I just kind of did some soul searching, and I said that was it. Like I don't have any more time here. I didn't particularly like how everybody handled it. Everything was kind of embarrassing to me, but I also kind of felt trapped at the time. And I love my neighbor; they're fantastic neighbors, but I'm still kind of embarrassed with how everything was kind of handled at that point. And I just said, okay, I'm kind of out of here. I want to go do something else.
What was the trapping feeling? What was it? The business that made you feel trapped, or was it just you had commitments there?
That's it. The chapter was done, and that my son has changed a lot of things for me. Up until 2015, I didn't think that I was going to be a father for a lot of those years. And then once I became one, I really became a whole different version. Before it was like, it's all right. What am I, even if I built a coffee company, if I die, who's going to, it's never going to go anywhere. So we didn't really take any of that seriously until after I had my son. After I had my son, then I've looked at everything differently since. And so now, I grew up on a ranch. I grew up on 100 acres when I was a little kid. I don't want, we grew up in the burbs, which is great. There's 15 kids he can play with on the street at any given time, which I didn't have. I had dogs, chickens that I had to go out and play with when I was his age. And so I just kind of reset. I looked at everything. Actually, one of the websites I built for a guy, he was an Olympian, and he did all these motivational things, speeches that he'd go to place for companies and stuff like that and talk about, overcoming things. Well, when I was building his website, I had to crunch all this video for him, and I had to, embed it and all the things. But so I got to watch all these videos. Well, one of them, changed my life. And one of them was talking about Tiger Woods. And it's the one about, when he had, even though he'd won the Masters, he knew that the issues that he had at the time, that the guys coming up behind him were so good that he was going to have to go back to work and get things to work on his swing, or he was never going to win another one. So he went away and reworked his swing. And so that's always kind of stuck with me, of being like, hey, you got to know when to stop and rework your swing here. And so I just kind of go, the best Austin Roasting Company is going to be, right, is okay, great. We'll have 100 accounts or something. That's the best it'll ever be. And it'll take me the next 10 years to do it. And I don't know if I want to do that. And it killed the coffee trailer and the brewery, and all that was, a smoldering wreck. The building that, we had kept taking suites in the building that we were in. But then the crime was so bad over there. I mean, it was literally like in a tasting once, and we were all laughing because we looked over and the guy was smoking crack outside the window. And we were just gassing because it was like, we're trying to do a tasting in here, and this guy's like has a crack pipe. So I had to get out, I kind of had to get out of there. And so I really just looked at it as got to rework my swing all the way.
Was your wife feeling the same thing
no,
at the time?
No, I don't think she would. She should probably could live in our house that we're in now forever.
Yeah.
She'd be fine with it. But, I think I listen to the wind. The wind kind of helps me along sometimes. Call it the wind, call it religion, call it whatever.
This is God or the universe.
This is whatever it is.
Yeah.
I tend to get signals, right? And so I kind of got the signal, like, I got to get out of here. And so, I'd seen this building that I'm in now. I'd always seen it coming through here, and I'd always loved this area because every time I come through it smells like the pines, like where I grew up. And so it always kind of just, every time I came through, I rolled down the window, I could smell the pines, and I always loved it. So I'd seen this building, and I always remembered it because it had all this cactus outside, and I kind of liked it. It was just metal and cactus and whatever. We ripped it all out, of course, but after the freeze, it froze it all. So I called the number, I was like, it's kind of far out there, but I'll call the number. And she immediately picked up the phone. She says, oh, here's the number of the guy that you want to talk to. And okay, so this is Randall Riley. I called him, and I'm going to come over and talk to you and stuff. And we just met, and I instantly dug this guy. He was exactly my energy. He was a state congressman, and he used to own Randall Riley Dodge, and he developed a lot of businesses and stuff. And he had known the guy who had owned the property before, and this was the perfect guy for me. If it had been anybody else, no, I'm going to need you to fill this out. No, this guy was none of that. He wanted to hear about the coffee business and what I wanted to do and all this stuff. And he's like, well, I want to come over and see your shop. And he was like as excited about me as I was about him. Right. And so when he came over and saw my shop, I think he was kind of fascinated by all the coffee part of it. So it just happened to be the perfect guy for me. And so it really made sense. And even my right hand, Jacob, when he went out there, I don't think he could really see it. The walls were all, really cattywampus in there. And there was two-way mirrors in that building and all this, it was like
what was it?
I don't know. There was some like movie studio, had people working out of there. I think it was the old Cattlemen's Association, and it was a nursery. It had just changed hands a lot. But it had been rebuilt. It had burnt to the ground with the fire. And so this was the new version of this building. But I walked in, and I was like, I saw it immediately. I was like, I'll rip this wall down. I'll pull that wall down. We'll do it down here. There'll be a roaster over there. We'll do this. And it's very close to actually what I saw that day. And it just worked. Everything about it just worked. And so, and that's really why, even to right now where I am in the business, Austin kept showing me closed doors. I have probably one of my biggest accounts in Austin. We're good friends. We like each other. I have maybe 2 or 3 of those over 18 years, right? That could tell you what my last name was. Nobody in Austin, they just expected it. They expected the coffee to be great. They didn't care about me. They don't know about me. They didn't care about me. They just wanted the coffee, right? And they expected it to be good. And so we got accounts, and that was great. When I came out here, everybody wanted to know me. They wanted to know who I was. I want to know what my last name was, what my kid. I have more people that know my kid's name now than could tell you after 15. So Austin kept showing me closed doors all the time. Bastrop kept giving me open doors to almost everything. And so it was really fun. We, Randall, he'd be out there every day, right? Wanted to see you need a ladder, you want a trash can, you need whatever it was. Everybody came in there. All the locals were supportive. They started buying from us immediately, slapping me on the back, wanting to know everything about me. So it was really compelling. And so, the fact that now I'm trying to build a house out here and we're doing all these other projects out here. It was so welcoming, and it's been so much more fulfilling than Austin was. Right. I felt like I always had to really work really hard in Austin for, to basically be the redheaded stepchild. And so, there's no love law. It's just, when another opportunity, it's time to change. And so we rebranded, and I kind of had this version of what I thought, my original, if I had to do it again, I probably would have started with retail instead of trying to do wholesale only. That was pretty rough. And this has gone smoother, doing retail at the same time than the other one. But I wanted to go in, change the brand. I wanted to change some things about the way that we were doing coffee and stuff. And this really gave me a lot more freedom. So far it's great. So
when you walk into the shop, I remember walking into the shop the first time and thinking, this is not like any place that I've been to in Bastrop or Smithville. It has a very different feel to it. And now knowing you a little bit, it's very much a reflection of your character and your personality, just like baked into that building.
Yeah, it is.
It's cool. And it's kind of where our friendship started. Like old CJ7 in the parking lot is what brought you out to talk to the guy who just drove up. And then we had some sort of shared experience there with old Jeeps, and, now getting to see the projects you're doing around the building and around the land that you bought that I want to talk about. But it's very much a reflection of your personality, and it doesn't have a feel of production to it. It has a warmth to it. That building does, as do the people that work there. Like, I'd pay you that compliment. You've attracted really, really good people who do seem to have a deep care for the experience that the customers have.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate. Each person in there right now, and we're at a good spot. I mean, it was tough because in the initial, when you're trying to convince people, like, hey, just trust me. If you do this, we will get to there, right? And we went through a lot of people in there, right? And a lot of it is, being out here is when you're trying to tell them these audacious ideas, they're just like, this guy's nuts.
What are you talking about?
This isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was a pretty low trust environment. But the two guys that I had with me, which is Hoyt and Jacob, and Jacob said to me one day, he goes, I just don't trust you like we do. You go, we know you, right? We know that you're going to get this done. We know that you're going to do this, but they don't know. Right. And that's why, we're going to have to spend some time there. The crew that I have right now is great. And everybody notices them. They're all really good people. They generally want to help everybody around them. And I could not do it without them. And so, right. I think it's in that unreasonable hospitality, right? In the early phases, right? Of being quick to hire, slow to fire. And then the better you get, quick to fire, or slow to hire and quick to fire, we're moving into that where we're going to get to be more selective about the team moving forward.
Yeah.
Where before I was really struggling. Somebody sent us an email last night and said, when are you going to be, we really want you to be open back on Mondays. And I said, it's probably never going to happen. And until we get a crew out there, is being able to maintain standards every hour of the day that we're open. It was just too hard on us before. So we're just going to keep adding people one at a time, if and when I can find them. And so, even the new pastry chef we have, she's fantastic. So
yeah, you get to a point with your culture where once it's developed into its own thing, where it kind of maintains itself, and people that aren't in your culture tend to get weeded out by your people before you have to make a decision on them.
Yeah.
It makes every subsequent hire a little more important, because you're not just hiring for that position, but you're hiring the personality and how they're going to add to your culture and be a part of it.
Yeah, it's getting easier from here. I'm hoping that it gets easier because the standards are being set, And one is you start attracting talent. They go, oh, I want to work on that baking program, or I want to work on that coffee program. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm optimistic. I still need a bunch of new people right now. I need some good help in there. But right now I'm pretty optimistic that they'll come.
Yeah.
So Or we'll get robots, I guess.
Or get robots.
Yeah.
Talk about the state of the coffee business, coffee in general. It's a global supply chain. There's plenty of producers. There's plenty of companies that sell coffee wholesale. What does the future of it look like? Who's going to survive? Who's not going to survive? What are the market forces that are causing it to change? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Right now, so the coffee market, right, I have to check, and I didn't check it this morning. But right now, cost-wise, we're at about double what we were in COVID. And so COVID was really brutal for coffee. And even when it happened, we were kind of at the top of the season. We were top of production. Going into January and March, usually have all of Central America. That's it. The containers are full. Everything was pumping. And so that was another one too. Of why I wanted to leave. Part of that was reworking my swing, was being like, this production is going to change. It's going to be harder for it to get it. It's going to take longer to get here. Those costs are going to go up. How we store it is going to be problematic. The coffee is going to take longer. And all of those things have been true. And so, the coffee that was coming in at that time all sat, whether it was sitting in, I think we had to reject one contract from Colombia, and it sat off the coast of Long Beach and just sat there. And, we did some sampling on it. And I was like, what is wrong with this coffee? Because you could kind of see like it was a facsimile of like, something is going on with this coffee in here. And I had found out after that it had been, sitting in a shipping container off it. And so some of that coffee was good. Some of it was bad. Right. And it had just been cooked inside the box, even though it was fantastic coffee. And so, so I kind of got an idea that we were going to have to, if we were going to survive, this new version of the coffee world, we were going to have to make sure that we could operate easily, have a good building, hurry up and get some retail going, start selling direct to consumer. I mean, I figured that out really quickly. That I think, we sat around and whined and complained for about 6 months. We were waiting to see, of course, we were told that, we're going to die and all these other things. So I was waiting around to see when that was going to happen. Right. I don't want to get started here and go dying on everybody. So we kind of sat around for a little bit, and then we just went to work. And I knew at the time that, okay, we're going to have to, get a bigger roaster and things like that. We're going to have to watch manpower for this new world that's coming to us, change packaging, right? And so I kind of saw it pretty early that there was going to be challenges in there. Now, since then, over the last 4 years, I think there was a surplus then. And then, of course, when everybody went home, all that coffee sat, right? And then, of course, all the middlemen were strained because now everyone who couldn't take the coffee had to break all their contracts. And so luckily if just for whatever reason, because it was January going into March, we hadn't inked a bunch of stuff. So I had taken some stuff, but not enough to where it would take us down. It was just stupid, dumb luck that we didn't. I was just like, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Or it was that wind you're talking about.
Yeah. So, but I kind of knew like that this thing was coming. Now I've been trying to navigate this period, of over the last 3 years. So like, okay, let's get a bigger roaster. Then we need less manpower. We can work on that same margin. One of the things I've been telling a lot of other small business people in one sense. So it kind of occurred to me is that, this is going to be more difficult. And so I said this to a bigger account, and they said, you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to expect less, and you're going to have to be happy about it. And so I've kind of told that to myself, and I would tell this to anybody in the coffee business, is you're going to have to do more. You're going to have to expect less, and you're going to have to be happy about it. Meaning if you like what you're doing, if you can withstand these pressures, then by all means, keep going and do it, and for us, I'm doing more. I'm working with a lot less margin. My guys have worked hard, but we've also trying to keep our prices down too, right? And I think even for now, I've been consistently a tier lower than everybody in my peer group since COVID started. And the reason is that, I still wanted to make sure that everybody was getting coffee. I never liked really the exclusivity of just, raising and raising and raising on prices. I never liked that, especially when there was plenty of coffee sitting in warehouses. So I never much cared for that. So, I started pivoting pretty soon. Now, where I think it's going is it's not going down.
The price of coffee.
No.
Yeah. What's
Ever.
impacting that?
Everything. I mean, yeah.
Regular inflation.
Manpower, diesel, fertilizer, climate change, any and all those things, dollar manipulation, right? Tariffs, you name it. I mean, we're getting killed right now, right? The Red Sea, right? Ethiopia, what's labor like in Central America right now? I don't know, right? So we're seeing it strained. So when I started in 2008, I think, most natural processed Brazilian coffee was about $1. And so that was in 2008. So the price I got yesterday for the coffee, the green coffee that we're going to use for our espresso blend is $6
per pound.
Yes, green. That's before it's put on a truck. That's before carry costs and, before it gets into the roaster where we have loss, before it goes into the bag, anything else. So, even as it is right now, if we're at $7 a unit for even the bottom of the barrel, right? That means we need to be, up into, I think we're going to see people into the 18, you're already seeing 18, 19, 20 at the bag level. So in the short term, we're just kind of dealing with this. So maybe the tariffs will go away. Okay. Maybe the weather will get better. Okay. Maybe fertilizer will lighten up. Maybe they'll get a bunch of diesel out of Venezuela. I don't know. Right. Maybe all of these things, but I don't see it in the short term. I don't see where all of a sudden everyone's going to go, okay, let's just lower our price. And so I think we have generational things that are going on at the farms, meaning grandpa's been running it for, the last 80 years. And he knows they're agronomists. They know every single thing about their water and the bean and all that. And those guys are going away. And I'm sure COVID was not kind to the average senior coffee farmer during that period. Not to mention I'm sure they have had it hard, where they put all their coffee on a shipping container and thought that they were going to get a check. Maybe they did or they didn't, right? And then we told them, oh, just don't do anything next year, right? And I don't know if did they get STEMI checks in Costa Rica or Brazil or wherever, El Salvador? Did they get that? I don't think they did. So that's why I think we're in this kind of, it's in this hard reset of what it's going to be. And so each of these origins has their own thing, right? So Brazil has lots of good volcanic soil, lots of sun, but they don't have a bunch of water, right? And so that's what they have to deal with. And so you have Costa Rica where you've got plenty of water, plenty of sun, steep terrain, and they have their advantage. And so each one of these countries is really kind of having their own issue. And I think Central America is probably very similar from Honduras and Nicaragua and all of these. But my big concern kind of moving forward is also labor. And so as labor and age and everything is rolling over right now, so you have the different generations where grandpa knew everything, right? He'd been doing coffee forever. What happens to him, right? And so then you're going to tell these young guys, the son, yeah, you could just lose everything, right? If you become a farmer, maybe you're going to lose all of these crops and produce this product. And then, hopefully nothing bad will happen. And so I think there are probably guys my age who are now taking over, dad's farm. They kind of had it rough. And so then you tell them, okay, they need younger people to get out there and pick and help them do that job, which is a very difficult job. It's hard work. And so you're going to tell them now, hey, let's go out and get to work. I went to Peru, I think about 2015, and I think I forget what the coffee market was, but it was low and all the trees were full of cherries. And we're kind of asking him like, hey, like, how come nobody's picking anything? And he goes, why? He goes, we can make more money digging ditches. Right. And he goes, we'll go out after, me and the kids will go out after and we'll maybe fill up a basket or something like that as part of it. Like they just chat, picking cherries and chatting, after dinner or something. And maybe they can make a little extra money or something like that. But there was no money in it. And so, I have some concerns moving forward about who's going to do that work down there. Now, if Elon gets the robots done and you can get these robots to march all over the hill and they'll pick coffee 24/7 and they can, they'll be able to identify a perfectly ripe cherry, pick it right then, and then with almost no cost, get that basket, all the way back down to the mill or wherever, to the truck where it needs to go. Okay. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Right. Now we're back in business.
Provided there's a demand for it.
So when is that going to happen though?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we have a vacuum coming up.
Yeah. There's a gap to be bridged.
Yes. In that there's going to be a trough here and the prices are going to go up because we have to support everybody along the way. Right. Everyone needs to get their cut here. Fertilizer, diesel, truck drivers, cargo ships, coffee gets touched a lot. Right. And it needs diesel all along the way. Right. Which is another one. This is whether or not you believe we're at peak oil or we've surpassed peak oil. I won't argue those points, but let's just say the price of diesel is going up. And it's not as easy to get as maybe it needs to be for them. So, so the argument I'm making is that for quality to be sustained, the prices are going to have to go up for a while. I've talked and spoke with other people in the industry, even on the manufacturing side, as far as roasters and things like that. And it's tight. I think if you're a cafe and you're not doing your own roasting, if you're not actively working on that, right, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because the roaster, even if I have to buy it at 7 and if I can roast it myself, every roaster in America is going to still be able to stay in, where if you're a cafe, you have to pay wholesale on top of that. You're not going to be able to compete.
Well, and for a cafe, coffee is like one of the traditionally more high margin products you sell, right?
Yes.
So if it's no longer a moneymaker for you, that puts cafe in a tight spot. Yeah.
So maybe nobody cares. I'm pretty far away. I see the consumers that I have now and they like to give me money. The staff tells me right now that people are always like, oh my God, like these prices are reasonable. Like they're more shocked that the prices are reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm only moving the coffee 15 feet.
Right.
I can do that. But if you're a cafe and you've got to move it across town and you got to go keep a roaster in business and all that, that's going to be tight.
Yeah, it's tough.
So a lot of people along the supply line over this next period are going to get strained. And I don't know who's going to make it and who isn't. I have taken a pretty conservative approach over the last 15 years. Paying for all of my equipment, always, picking my team and, always kind of looking at, to make us as resilient as I could. I want market share just like everybody else. Right. So I try to keep the quality good and the prices down, but I think this next period the quality stuff is going to go up. The price of your coffee is going to go up. Your bagged coffee is going to go up. And I think there'll be a full repricing is where I think it's going. Meaning, if you're still in the mindset that iced tea should be, $1 a glass or something like that, well, tea's relatively cheap, but coffee's going to have to go up for this to be sustainable. Now, I'm sure there's a break point in there for somebody. Where's your break point? $50 a pound, $100 a pound, right? Where does the consumer go?
When do you stop drinking coffee?
Yeah. And so, I'm in a unique position. I don't have to worry about that. But, I think the consumer out there is going to have to start thinking about like, this is not not going to be $1 a cup anymore.
Mm.
And coffee's, I think people's value proposition on coffee has been askew for a long time. Most of the unicorn tier coffee that's out there is still, cheaper per ounce than Monster or every other beverage you're drinking. And your average IPA, per ounce or something like that, you can be drinking the best stuff on the planet for less money, So I think the consumer is going to have to do a little bit of an adjustment here.
Yeah.
And we'll see how the robots go.
Yeah, right.
So nobody's cheering for Elon more than me. I'd love so one, that job is not an easy job. Picking coffee is not an easy job. Snakes, caterpillars, standing in the sun, standing on the side of a hill. It's humid. Nobody should really want to do that job. So if all of a sudden we can automate these jobs and there's just a whole field of robots out there picking coffee, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
So we got to hurry up and get there though.
Is one of the only questions I ask consistently is about optimism. That I don't have room in my life for people that are pessimistic or nihilistic. I like to be surrounded by people that, despite any evidence they see to the contrary, they're going to remain optimistic. So for you and what you do, given that you've got a family, you've got to be optimistic about the future, at least somewhat, even if you're gaslighting yourself to an extent. What makes you optimistic about the future?
Well, I'm not particularly optimistic in that if I was 44, maybe I'd be like, it's okay. What's another 5 years? At 54, I'm like, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah. I plan to be there and I'm going to continue to do my work over there.
You have to have some optimism because you're still doing it.
I like the job. I like it. It makes people happy. The business is growing. People love that place.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to keep going. I'm not, I was explaining to, my other business part yesterday, like one thing you got to understand is this is like, I'm not compelled by profits at this point. Right. If it was all about money, I should have quit 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Because this isn't all about the money. This is like right. You're going to have to do more, expect less, and be happy about it. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing more. I'm expecting less, and I'm going to be happy about it. And so this is why, we had the flower guys in, came and visited us last week for, regenerative flowers that we're going to have in there. And, we're talking with a beekeeper tomorrow. So we're going to start growing our own honey. And I'm taking it on as more of a, almost like a prepper challenge. It's like, I'm going to find the margin because I'm willing to do more. And if I get less from it, that's okay because I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I'm going to learn how to keep bees, and our pastry program is going to continue to do better. Our sandwiches are done on bread that, me and Kristen made that recipe. We made 4 versions of it and we go, that's it. That's the one. Right. And so we are trying to use, other things, flour, water, local fruits, whatever we can get. I like a good problem. I like to kind of solve. That's where the fun is, now if things get better, great. I would love to be optimistic about it. If things start going back my way. But I think, even as my takeaway, I'm not that optimistic about the coffee world right now.
Mm.
So, and it's just a kind of a warning, I've been trying to warn, because I'm in it and because I've been in it all those years, I'm just trying to kind of warn everybody a little bit about your expectations about what that can be. But you won't feel it. If you come into my shop, you're not going to feel that, right? It's going to be roasting. It's going to smell amazing. You're going to eat a pastry and you'll have a cup of coffee. The price will be reasonable and we'll endure.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to give you an answer for optimism then, because you're the kind of person that likes solving problems, and the future, at least for the short term, while you've got a gap to be bridged until the robots arrive, there's no shortage of problems to solve if you're going to stay in business and keep a job for people and a good spot for people in Bastrop County to go and sit and have a good cup of coffee. No shortage of problems to go after.
Yeah.
And you're a problem solving type, so you're the right guy for it.
Well, and I haven't studied like the Stoics and stuff like that, but in what I'm doing right now, and even you talked about and I've taken you out to my property too, is just to see what I'm doing out there. Like It's rough. It's hard, man.
Yeah.
And to be 54 out there and running a chainsaw and dropping trees and stuff like that. But there's, I don't know, there's some kind of peace in it and just kind of not having it too easy right now. So I hope I'm not sounding like I'm complaining. I think, I'm trying to flash the light on everyone's dash a little bit that things might change. But yeah, I've made it this, how did I start with? It's like, I already said I wasn't going to quit.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll keep going.
Once that option's off the table,
yeah,
what else are you gonna do?
we're just going to keep going.
Just keep showing up for work. Jess, I've appreciated knowing you, man. I mentioned this earlier, but when I got to your shop, I recognized there was something different about that place. And then I actually met your wife before I met you. I don't know if I've told you this before or not, but I came in there one time on a Saturday with my family. And there was this lady in there decorating. It was like change of seasons, and she was hanging something up on the wall. And I thought, okay, somebody that's in here decorating, she has to be part of the group that owns or manages this place. So I introduced myself to her, complimented her on the shop, and she said, "Yeah, it's me and my husband own it." So I had always I had wanted to meet you at some point, anyways, and then we just had that happenstance meeting in the parking lot. But to pay you a compliment, even though I know you're not real into compliments. Whatever it is that the artistic approach to coffee that you seem to take is not one that's shared by everybody that opens a coffee shop, roastery kind of a place. Like you really do have an artist's sensibility to you. You're a little bit feral, which I really like. Like I looking in the mirror this morning, I'm kind of in sabbatical mode. So I'm not, I need a haircut. I need to shave my beard, but I thought I'm going to visit with Jess today. I don't need to do any of that stuff. Like I like the feral element to you. Most of my friend group are a little feral.
The funny thing is this, even now is I'll do it mostly intentional, is sometimes like, I want to be able to be like, is that the guy that owns this place? Like, I walked in there after running the chainsaw with my entire chest was brown from here down. I'm covered in grit or dirt or whatever. That's where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's, there's a lot of honesty in it for me.
There's authenticity to
it.
Yes.
And which is why, I'm real truthful with people. If I don't like something, I'll tell you, that place and a lot of those, there is a lot of authenticity in there. It's just because we made all that stuff in there, either I made it in my driveway. Things were given to us in there, a lot of the things in there, I'll see people noticing things that they caught, they noticed one time and then you'll see them in there looking at something else. Like, when did that get here?
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff has a story. And I think people feel that, I wanted a vintage camp stove. Right. And it was for a display. Because I knew that every time whenever anybody saw a camp stove, it would evoke some kind of memory, right? Of watching Dad trying to light that son of a bitch, out on some camping trip.
Yeah.
And so, but I found one from a guy, up here off the highway. And he was like, "Oh, I used to take my boys down to the coast and, I'd cook them all my meals on this thing." And it just had a really good story to it. And I said, "Well, you can come and visit it. It'll be at the shop." And some of these, like I sent them stuff back to Coleman. So everything is working. Like things have been rebuilt in there. So you can take anything off the shelf and actually use it and light it. And it should work. Used to be, I don't know if it's there anymore. There used to be white gas sitting out in the cafe. So if you I tried to make it as authentic as it could. I was telling the staff the other day that we used to hide all the money from the register and the deposits in the cafe, in the displays. And I thought it was a funny joke that they didn't know that all the money was actually right in front of them. There's a hidden shelf inside the retail display, and that's where we used to keep the money. And no one would ever look there.
That's funny.
I wanted to leave little surprises for people in the shop. We embedded fake gold nuggets they're more so on the right side of the building where the roastery is now. There's fake gold nuggets that are embedded down into the concrete and coins and stuff. There's all these little Easter eggs. If people, Jacob found an old Quaalude bottle at an antique store, and we used to keep it. What used to be, it's not in that. The old bathroom was on the other side before we expanded. But if you happen to open up the medical case, it had Quaaludes inside the medical case, right? It's basically that somebody would look in there, right, wanting to see what was in there and be like, Quaaludes, right?
That's
and then close
great.
it. So we tried to leave all these Easter eggs for people to find in the place.
That's an artist sensibility.
Yeah.
Leaving Easter eggs.
And so, and I want that to continue with the outdoor. I have high expectations for the stage and the things that we're working on right now. So,
yeah, let's wrap up with that. Tell me a little bit about the future of the business, like what's coming down the pipeline for people that are in Bastrop County or make their way through town and they've seen that building a lot and they've been curious to come in. What does it look like today versus what it's going to look like, say, 3 years from now?
Well, yesterday the conversation, we were talking about the movie studio, and now they're saying they're going to break ground in September. And, I kind of sent it to the staff like, hey, just be aware, that they may need things from us or something like that. And, across from the shop, as I was told from the plumbers, is that there's 400 estate size homes going across there, that the lots or whoever owns that out there across from the building.
That's all sort of the forest that's rebuilding.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, if Tahitian continues to expand out there, I've always believed that this world is going to come up around me, as kind of people find Bastrop and keep, they find the pines out here. And I think, I still, I go out to Liberty Hill and Leander and all those places. And I go, how did you guys all start here when Bastrop is like, we've got the pine trees. It's really beautiful. Why did everybody go every other direction except here first? So, because I think it's absolutely beautiful out there. And so, I really like the parks. That kind of influenced a lot of the design of the place. So I believe that, this ecosystem that's coming up around me, of people and businesses and life, as people are kind of leaving Austin like me, there was an article, it was forever ago in some industry rag, and it was saying that wherever specialty coffee goes, so goes the rest of it, right? Meaning all it takes is one guy like me to go out and plant a flag out somewhere, and someone goes, well, at least we can get coffee if we move out here, right? Or, oh, I can go get, pan of chocolate now and go for a hike in the park on the same day. I think we should live out here. So I know that I might be a catalyst for my own, which could be my demise there as, I'm going to lose my view as the business grows. But that's how I kind of see this going, right? And so I'm trying to be ahead of it. I do have a little, I try to not put my ego in there too much. But one of the dreams I always had when we started this was, I want to have Dale Watson play there, right? I love Dale Watson, he, to me, like was one of my bucket lists, right? Was to see if we could get Dale Watson to come play, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to try and build it and see if we can get him to come. I know he was doing this kind of like, chat with coffee and stuff like that. Elizabeth, I'm sure Elizabeth can coerce him. Maybe we can get him out here.
There you go.
I'm gonna try and build a stage. I want to. I think this future where we're headed is people are going to have a lot more free time. I do. Here's the optimism part, right? I think we are going to have some more free time. If some of these routine, mundane tasks go away, I think people will need a place to go now. Like, where are people going? Especially out here, there's nowhere to go, right? If you want to go chat with somebody or have a mister on and, have a sangria or something like that. And so I think out here kind of needs a little place to go. I do want to support, local music. So we want to use all local musicians as we've been doing. I also want to have some surprises too, I don't know, maybe reggae bands, punk bands. I don't know who we're going to have out there. But I just want to build it and see what it becomes.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of gardening to do. We've got, some structural, between stage and trees and, ripping up fences and stuff like that. We want to get that developed. So I've had to make some hard decisions. Everybody wants me to do breakfast tacos. Okay, it's expensive and we'll have tacos, right?
Yeah.
I could do that, but I kind of want to start with this.
Yeah.
I want the music. I want a place, we don't get that much outside time here. That's really enjoyable, right? And we're going into, October to March. That's kind of our sweet spot. in here for being outside. And so I'm going to keep working on that.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. I think it'll go right. I've had a pretty decent record of if I see it and if I keep making it, it tends to go that way. So we were able to get the deal done on buying the business. So I'm going to be there. I plan to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
So we're just going to keep building and see how it goes.
Buying the building and the property surrounding.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's great. Well, I feel fortunate to know you. I feel like I'm catching you at the most interesting time of your life. So it's going to be fun to be a fly on the wall to see you put it all together.
Yeah. This is one of the better versions of me, I think. And I'm getting better at my job. I'm getting better about being a boss, better at being a husband. I don't know about that. Better at being a dad. So I'm optimistic about, and the other one is just enjoying the work that I've done now, and to wrap it up on my side too, is where I don't know how I got out here, but I know that for whatever reason, I keep meeting people out here that have changed my life. Mm. I don't know why. I if I look back at Austin and I look at all the time there, I don't know. I'd have to look around and be like, who here changed the trajectory of my life? But the people that I've met out here have absolutely changed my life. They of my family, my wife, my kid, everybody. And so I really like that. I mean, I'm kind of re-energized after sort of being running away from COVID and Austin and all that. I'm kind of re-energized to come out here and fall in love with the work that I'm doing again. So
a very Texan thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
I said it's a very Texan thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, man, I know this was not an easy thing for you to want to do, so I appreciate you being willing to come in here and visit. And
can I do my disclaimer now?
Yeah, do your disclaimer.
I need an asterisk.
Yeah.
Nothing I say can be held against me in a court of law.
No, I think you did well. You did well. You came out of it unscathed.
Yeah. Good.
Thanks for making time for it, man.
You bet.
Appreciate
Anytime. You. All right.